Riding a bus late at night feels different than during the day. The streets are quieter, the bus is emptier, and you notice every little sound, the hum of the engine, the creak of the seats, even your own heartbeat. But sometimes, it's not just your imagination. These are 3 disturbing true horror stories from late-night bus rides. It was around 11:30 at night when I boarded the last bus leaving downtown. I had just finished a long shift at work, and all I wanted was to sit down, close my eyes, and zone out until I got home. The bus was practically empty. The only people inside were the driver, myself, and a man sitting all the way in the back corner. His hoodie was pulled up over his head, and he sat slouched so low that I could barely see his face. I took a seat near the middle of the bus, right by the window. At first, I didn't think much about him. People keep to themselves on late-night buses. I put in my earbuds, leaned against the cold glass, and stared at the passing lights outside. After about 10 minutes, I started to feel uneasy. At the next stop, the man from the back slowly stood up. I expected him to leave, but he didn't. Instead, he shuffled down a few rows and sat closer. I brushed it off as coincidence. Maybe he just wanted to be closer to the exit. But at the next stop, it happened again. He moved forward another few rows. Still silent. Still no expression. A knot formed in my stomach. By the time we reached the 5th stop, he was sitting just 2 rows behind me. I could feel the weight of his eyes boring into the back of my head. I pulled out my earbuds and listened. The bus was quiet except for the engine. Then, faintly, I heard something else. A whisper. It was him. His lips were moving, muttering words I couldn't make out. I tried to catch a few, but they sounded like nonsense. Or maybe another language. I finally turned my head, pretending to glance around. That's when I saw his face for the first time. His hoodie had slipped back slightly, and his wide, glassy eyes were staring directly into mine. His skin looked pale, almost gray under the fluorescent bus lights. I jerked my head forward and tried to stay calm. I thought about moving to the very front near the driver, but I didn't want to make it obvious that I was scared. When my stop finally came, I stood up quickly. My hands were shaking as I pressed the button. As the doors opened, I hurried off the bus without looking back. But as the bus pulled away, I couldn't help it. I turned. He was standing now, in the aisle, watching me through the window. And I'll never forget his face. Those lifeless eyes, locked on mine until the bus disappeared down the road. For weeks after that night, I had trouble sleeping. I couldn't shake the feeling that he hadn't just been some random passenger, that he had followed me. This happened when I was 19. I was coming back from a friend's apartment late at night, and decided to take the bus instead of paying for a taxi. The ride was about an hour long, and when I got on, there were only 3 people left inside, me, an older woman near the front, and a man sitting directly across the aisle from me. At first, I didn't pay attention to him. He was dressed normally, dark jacket, jeans. But after a few minutes, something started to feel off. He wasn't moving. At all. His hands rested neatly on his lap, his eyes staring straight ahead. He didn't blink, didn't fidget, didn't shift in his seat like normal people do. He looked like a statue. I told myself maybe he was asleep with his eyes open. But then I realized I couldn't see his chest moving. No rise or fall. No breathing. My stomach dropped. I glanced out the window, trying to ignore him. But every few seconds my eyes would drift back. He hadn't moved a single muscle. Then, out of nowhere, his head turned. Slowly. Creaking almost unnaturally. His eyes locked onto mine. I froze. My throat went dry. He didn't blink, didn't say a word, just stared. I looked desperately toward the driver, but he was focused on the road. The older woman got off at the next stop, leaving just me, the driver, and this motionless man. The silence was unbearable. I pulled out my phone and pretended to text, hoping it would make me look less vulnerable. My hands trembled as I typed nonsense. When my stop finally came, I stood up. His head followed my every move. His eyes tracked me all the way down the aisle. As I stepped off, I turned to glance at the bus. He had moved. He was standing now, face pressed against the glass of the window, staring at me as the bus pulled away. I ran the whole way home. And to this day, I ask myself, was he even alive? Or was I sitting across from something that only looked human? This happened about 5 years ago, when I worked late shifts and had no choice but to take the night bus home. The route went through a rural area, and most nights, I was the only passenger. That night, the bus was empty when I boarded, except for the driver. I sat in the middle, set my bag on the seat beside me, and leaned against the window. The city lights faded quickly, replaced by long stretches of dark road and empty fields. It was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes every sound stand out. The hum of the engine, the squeak of the old bus seats, even my own breathing. After about 20 minutes, I noticed something in the window's reflection. A shadow. A shape sitting behind me. My heart skipped a beat. I turned quickly, but the seat was empty. I told myself I was imagining things. I put in my earbuds and tried to relax. But then I heard it. Breathing. Heavy, uneven breathing coming from right behind me. I froze. My skin crawled. Slowly, I turned again. The row was still empty. But the sound didn't stop. It was right there, inches from my ear, like someone was leaning over me. I couldn't move. My body locked up in pure fear. Then, without warning, I felt it, warm air brushing against the back of my neck. That was enough. I jumped out of my seat and ran to the very front of the bus. My voice cracked as I asked the driver, "Is anyone else on this bus?" He glanced at me through the rearview mirror and shook his head. "Just you and me," he said. I didn't say another word the rest of the ride. But the breathing never stopped. It followed me all the way until my stop. When I finally stepped off, I swear I heard faint footsteps behind me as the bus drove away. I don't take night buses anymore. Because whatever was behind me that night, it wasn't human.